Welcome back to the channel. We've got something a little bit different for you today. I'm going to bet and say you've probably not seen one of these before. This, believe it or not, is a 40 channel AM 4 watt radio from 1977. I'll pop some specifications up on the screen about this radio just now. This is the high gain 16. Now it's been sent to me by one of my viewers for a bit of alignment. A little bit dirty, as you can see on the front of this, but really unusual looking piece of equipment, as you can see here. Now this, believe it or not, you may think it's a 1980s device. This is actually from the mid 70s. This is 1977, and it was made by High Gain, and probably in Japan. I've not looked yet, but it was mainly marketed for US use. It's certainly an FCC radio, this one, and it was also sold across Europe with a limit of, I think when it was sold in Sweden, of just 23 channels and not the full 40. So anyway, it consists of this handset device, and as you'll probably guess, it's coupled in to a base unit by this multi-pole connector here, which looks fairly substantial, I have to say. So the idea with this one obviously was to be discreet, to have a handset in the front of the car. They also sold an extension cable for this, so you could put the main radio section in the boot and hide it away. It was a hideaway radio. Now, one of the pluses with this, and partly why I agreed to do it, it's an AM radio only, not FM, is that there's an excellent service manual available for this, which I've downloaded and printed off, which we shall use on the setup. So before we go through anything, I'll show you the base unit. And here is the base unit. As you can see, it's a conventional shaped CB chassis size, encased in a polycarbonate box here, and it's got like the Uniden type connector on there. We've got an external speaker jack and a PA speaker. We have the multi-pole connector there, and there's your FCC information if anyone's interested there. And this was a Class D device back then, and your PL259 for your antenna. Now there's a, what does that say there? Power external squelch. Okay, so there's an external squelch connector on there. Looking at the rest of the box, I don't think there's anything much to say about it. It has, it's quite light, I'll say that. It doesn't seem too heavy. It has fixing slots in the side, so this could be put in the boot of your car or anything. And on the top of it here, it says about remove cover and connect a 9-volt battery before installation. Now I would imagine that the 9-volt battery is there as a battery backup for the built-in clock, because if we get the handset back there, on this red display on here, there's a built-in clock function, so it has a clock on it. But obviously when you switch the power off, you would lose that. But it does have a multi-pole power connector. Let me show you that. So it is using all 3 cores of this power connector. Now I would imagine what would have been done back then would be your switch live from your ignition would have come in on your red connector, and then on your orange you would have had that as a direct connection to the car battery, and that would be used obviously to keep the clock alive. Now whether they subsequently added this 9-volt backup battery after that, I don't know, but I imagine that that's why it's using both cores. But we'll look at that when we power it up. So before we do anything, let's power it up. And there's the umbilical plugged into the radio with the power connector. So let's see if we get any joy when we power it on. Oh, there we go. Wow, look at that. Let me just turn the volume down for you. There we go, let's just turn the volume down. Wow, that's ace. Now, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember those calculators that your dad used to have perhaps in the drawer back in the early 70s or 80s. Wow, look at that. And we've got the volume up and down, so it shows our channel number in the right there, and then the volume controls up and down. And that seems to be working okay. Up is and down, yeah, it's hard for me to see the writing there. And we got the receive light in green, and obviously when we transmit, we'll get the transmit. So we haven't got an antenna plugged in yet, as you may have noticed, so I just wanted to check that we were getting the sound. We are, which is great. We're getting that controls there. Now the other controls on the handset, you have a function button there, so once you push the function button down, it locks on, and then you have different options for these. So you can set your time or your noise blank on these two. Obviously your channel buttons are just standalone there, and then you got your signal strength button there which you can press, and then you've got for the other function button one is your PA is for the PA here, so PA on and off, or the squelch up and down, and then you have a memory function there for memories you can store. So wow, that is so cool, isn't it? That really does look proper retro, doesn't it? It's like something off of off the space shuttle back in the day or something. And in fact that's how they marketed the radio. I'll just pop a clip in now, and you can see that was kind of the look that they were going for. So yeah, I think it definitely worked, didn't it? So let's plug an antenna in. Okay, there's transmit 1212, but I know that that's off frequency. That's quite a bit off frequency. Let me show you we've got almost 4 watts there, so that's good, but that's definitely not on frequency. I can tell we've got the President Randy here. It's supposed to be where the red line is. We are zoomed in, so it's a fair bit off frequency, which won't have been helping things. That's not even anywhere near, so that will have to be brought back in, but we can do that, I'm sure. Main thing is it is transmitting. Using the President Randy, we'll just try transmitting, see if it can hear it okay. 1, 2. Yeah, you'll notice on the audio as well, I'm picking up a little bit of noise. It's just the squelch operation, I'm guessing, but I'll have a look at that and see if there's anything I can do about that. It may just be how the squelch is on this. And yeah, that's good. And just see if we can get a bit of modulation, even though it's off frequency. We'll see if we can hear it on here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. No, it's too far off, and I don't think there's much modulation anyway coming through this. So we'll sort that with the settings there. You can see we're on channel 20, and when I key up, you can see we got the red TX light coming up there on the high gain. We'll give this a really good clean, as I've said before we send it back to the customer. I'll clean the lead, the microphone lead as well, because it's pretty grimy. But as you've seen if you've watched the channel, you'll see that the spray foam will bring that up really nice. So let's take the lid off the main control unit and get cracking on doing the setup. Okay, that's the top lid removed, and then the lower half looks very clean. It smells a little bit cigarette smoky in here, but we have the RF shield in the bottom of that, which is loose fitting. It pop in and out, no problem. No corrosion there, which is nice to see. I'll move that out of the way. So there's the rear of it if you're interested. Okay, so I'll pop that to one side. Not going to be needing those, although it probably is an idea to do the tune-up with the plate underneath it. But there's the most unusual sight I think I've ever seen in a radio, a 9-volt battery clip like that. Very strange, isn't it? But there you go. It looks really clean inside here. It's got that slight, ever so slight yellowy look from a radio that's been in a smoky environment, but it doesn't look to have been fiddled with at all. I can't see any evidence of screwdrivers. Now, bearing in mind this radio is from 1977, I would guarantee, I'd almost guarantee that there are problems with the capacitors in this. The customer viewer, whichever way you want to call them, they haven't suggested that I change any capacitors, or have asked for capacitors to be changed. But I'll certainly look around the audio IC side, because I've got a good schematic diagram. I'll probably will, as a courtesy to him, just change some of those audio capacitors around that, because yeah, I mean, it looks good, doesn't it? Because, you know, I just know from experience that can be a problem. Now, we do have relays. I'm not going to touch those, and goodness knows where you'd get those from if they needed changing. But they appear to be okay. But I probably would not have touched this had I have not had the service manual. And I did. There's a lovely service manual for this, which has literally got everything you need to know in about setting up one of these. It's got pictures, diagrams, a full schematic, a block diagram. I mean, why on earth, as part of these FCC and also in the UK under 2781 MPT, whatever you want to call it, they didn't make that an absolute must? you know, that they didn't. They should have insisted that schematics and service manuals had to be provided. You know, and that applies now, of course, with modern technology. You know, the right to repair things. Everyone should have a right to repair stuff that they own. That includes right the way up to modern mobile phones and laptops. So this is fantastic. This is what it would and half save me and people like Richard at UKCB Servicing a lot of time if these kind of things were easily available. And of course, where they're not easily available, people want $30 for the manual. So there you go. Knowledge is power. Right, talking of which, let's plug this into the test equipment and start well, let's first get it on frequency, because as you saw there, it was a mile away, wasn't it? So but I will go through, there is a procedure to go through on tune-up, but I want to get it on frequency first. So let's go to the manual and find out where that is. Right, with the lid up, the first thing we need to do, as you can see that IC there, we need to check the frequency, the 10.24 meg input frequency on that, on pin 6. That's pin number 6 of IC 101, 10.24 meg. There you can see, I don't know if you can see at the bottom there, we've got 10.2397 megs. Okay, so we're pretty close. Doesn't actually tell you where or how you adjust that, but it's I'm going to just go through the service manual and check it like that. So we're nearly there, but yeah, got a good sine wave anyway. And it says on the emitter end of R110, check to read 11.8066 megs. So let's find that resistor. I'm sure it'll be somewhere close. And there is R110 just in front of that transistor. See that transistor there? And there's R110 2.2K. And it says on the emitter end of that one, so I presume that's the one to my right. There we go. We got what we got there, 11.8070. Good sine wave again, or decent, half decent. And we were looking for 11.8066, so slightly out, but there is a VCO alignment section now, so let's go through that. Okay, you can see C135 there in the middle of the picture, the blue capacitor. We're looking at the positive leg, which is to my left, and we need to be reading 5 to 5.5 volts on there. So let's just see what we're getting. We're getting 5.2 volts, so between 5 and 5.5, so that's in spec. Okay, so then we need to check on pin 17, which you can see just to the top right of the picture there. If I zoom in, that one there, top right, and we're looking for, it's an 18 pin chip, this one, so looking for pin 17, we're looking for between 8.2 and 9.3 volts on that chip just there. There we go, 8.2 volts. Now if this hasn't been meddled with, this is looking pretty good for a radio that's nearly 50 years old, right? Excellent. Alright, now it's asking us to change channel to channel 1. E21, okay. And what's it saying now? Connect the voltmeter between ground and R114 TP8 side. Adjust T101 to obtain 1.5 volts plus or minus 0.1 of a volt. Okay. And as you can see, R114 is just there, next to that yellow capacitor. And we've got to get on the side of the TP, the test point side of that, and measure our voltage there. And the adjustment there is T101, which is that can just there. Okay, so off that point we've got 1.3, we should have 1.5. There we go, that's near enough. 1.5 volts. It says here, if the output power is under 2 watts, go to step 2. If it is more than 2 watts, go to step 6. It's more than 2 watts. Step 6 gives us our setup there. So I'm going to go through that off camera. It's pretty dull. It's doing, it's still doing 4 watts, I think. As near as damn it there, isn't it? So let's just peek it off a camera to that, exactly to the service manual. That way we know it's done correctly. It's still not on frequency. The VCO is now set, but we've still got to get the frequency a bit more close. And there we go. We're getting our full 4 watts. And that was on channel 20 we're doing, and now we're on channel 1, and we're getting 4 watts. And we drop it down to, I'll drop it up to channel 40, and we're getting 4 watts as well. So that's nice and even. Perfect. It's asking us to check that the current, the red one in the middle, doesn't exceed 1.4 amps on transmit, which you can see it's not, so that's good. On the frequency, it should be 27205. That's as near as I can get. It says plus or minus 800 hertz on the spec, but it's 300 above, or 359 above, which is it's higher than I would like. But the only other thing that we'd have to do is perhaps look at changing the crystal. I don't think they'll want to do that. It will still work, and it's within the specification. Let me just show you that in the manual. It says there, check the frequency of each channel with the chart below. Frequency should be within plus or minus 800 hertz, and we were 300 hertz away. So yeah, you'd have to start changing crystals, and I don't think they would want the cost of that. I haven't got any other crystals anyway, but the adjust doesn't mention it in the service manual, but it's that little trimmer capacitor down there to adjust the VFO, and that will bring it down. I got it as low as I can. It was certainly nearer than it was. Yeah, so the first snag I've hit upon is that the deviation is the deviation. The modulation, this is AM, the modulation is low. It's not modulating well, and the adjustment, there's no real adjustment on there. So we're going to have a look at the circuit diagram, and I think we're going to change a few capacitors around the mic input, and maybe just look at the back of that board in case there's any dry joints, but we need to sort the modulation before we do receive. So it is modulating, but it's not modulating very well. Right, that's a lot better now on the modulation. I have changed all of those components. That trimmer pot was suspect. I've put a new skeleton in there and replaced it. You can see where all those capacitors were, and now we're getting a much better look in terms of modulation. 1, 2. There we go. So we'll try that with Mick on the test.
Many thanks for watching. Don't forget to join Noxyman for part 2 coming soon.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Noxyman on YouTube for more great content like this. Have a great day.